Hello everybody! So today we are moving on to chapter 15 and 16 of The Billionaire Boy by David Walliams. And I thought I'd read two chapters today because the chapters are starting to get a little bit smaller. So I thought we could enjoy two. So in the last chapter, Joe went for a walk with Lauren and the grubs came, those awful grubs. And they demanded some money off Joe. He was worried his secret was going to be revealed to Lauren. And she had these martial arts skills and actually defended her and Joe against the grubs. And then he was hoping for a kiss. He didn't get one, but he almost got one. So chapter number 15, Nip and Tuck. There was something very peculiar about Mrs. Traeff today. She looked the same, but different. As Joe and Lauren approached the serving counter, Joe realised what had changed. The loose skin on her face had been lifted. Her nose was smaller. Her teeth were capped. The lines on her forehead had been erased. Her eye bags had gone. Her wrinkles had gone. Her breasts were much, much bigger, but she was still limping. Here she is, look. Looking fabulous. Mrs. Traeff, you look really different, Joe said, staring at her. Do I? Replied the old dinner lady with mock innocence. Now, what do you two fancy today? Roast bat with all the trimmings, soap souffle, cheese and polystyrene pizza? It's hard to choose, faltered Lauren. You are new, are you, girl? Asked Mrs. Traeff. Yes, I just joined the school yesterday, replied Lauren, surveying the dishes and trying to work out which one was the least horrible. Yesterday? That's strange. I'm sure I've seen you somewhere before, said the dinner lady, studying Lauren's perfect face. You look very familiar. Joe butted in. Did you have the hip replacement operation yet, Mrs. Traeff? He is becoming increasingly suspicious. The one I gave you the money for a couple of weeks ago, he whispered, so Lauren wouldn't hear. Mrs. Traeff began to jabber nervously. Well, no, not yet, dear. Why don't you have a nice large slice of my very tasty underpant flan? You spent the money I gave you on plastic surgery, didn't you? Hissed Joe. A bead of sweat trickled down her face and plopped into her badger snot soup. I am sorry, Joe. I just always want to have a few things done, pleaded the dinner lady. Joe was so furious. He felt he had to leave instantly. Lauren, we're going, he announced, and she followed as he stormed out of the dining room. Mrs. Traeff limped after them. If you could just lend me another £5,000, Joe, I promise I'll have it done this time, she called after him. When Lauren finally caught up with Joe, he was sitting alone in the far corner of the playground. She gently put her hand on his head to comfort him. What was all that about lending her £5,000, she asked. Joe looked at Lauren. There was no way of avoiding telling her now. My dad is Len Spud, he said sorrowfully, the bum-fresh billionaire. My name's not Potato. I just said that so you wouldn't know who I was. The truth is, we're stupidly rich, but when people find out, it tends to ruin everything. You know what? Some of the other kids told me this morning, said Lauren. Joe's sadness lifted for a moment. He reminded himself that Lauren had still gone for an ice lolly with him yesterday when she thought he was just Joe. Maybe it wouldn't ruin things this time. Why didn't you say anything? He asked. Because it doesn't matter. I don't care about all that. I just like you, she said. Joe was so happy he wanted to cry. It's strange how sometimes you can be so happy it goes all the way around to sadness. I really like you too. Joe moved closer to Lauren. This was the moment to kiss. He closed his eyes and pushed his lips together. Not here in the playground, Joe. Lauren pushed him away, laughing. Joe felt embarrassed he had even tried. I'm sorry. He quickly changed the subject. I was trying to do something kind for that old bag and she goes and gets her knockers done. I know, it's unbelievable. It's not the money. I don't care about the money. No, it's that she took your generosity for granted, offered Lauren. Joe looked up to meet her gaze. Exactly. Come on, said Lauren. I think what you need is some chips. I'll buy you some. The local chippy was bursting with kids from the comprehensive. It was against the rules to leave school premises at lunchtime, but the food in the canteen was so awful there wasn't much choice. The grubs were at the front of the queue, but fled as soon as they saw Lauren, leaving their battered sausages sizzling on the counter. The pair stood outside on the pavement and ate their chips. Joe couldn't remember the last time he had enjoyed such a simple pleasure. It must have been when he was really, really little, before the bum-fresh Billions came and changed everything. Joe wolfed his chips down and noticed Lauren had barely touched hers. He was still hungry, but wasn't sure whether their relationship had advanced to a point where he could start helping himself to her food. That was normally after a few years of marriage, and they weren't even engaged yet. "Have you finished with yours?" he ventured. "Yes," she replied. "I don't want to eat too much. I am working next week." "Working? Doing what?" said Joe. Lauren suddenly looked very flustered. "What did I say? I thought you said you were working." Yeah. I am working," she paused, and then took a breath. "Just in a shop." Joe wasn't convinced. "So why would you need to be thin to work in a shop?" Lauren looked uncomfortable. "It's a very narrow shop," she said. She checked her watch. "We've got double maths in 10 minutes. We'd better go." Joe frowned. There was something strange going on here. I wonder what Lauren's up to. I wonder what her secret is. Chapter 16. Peter Bread. "The witch is dead," sang a spotty little boy. "Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead." It wasn't even registration time yet, but already the news was spreading across the school like flu. "What do you mean?" asked Joe as he took his seat in his classroom. On the other side of the class, he could see Bob looking over at him with a pained expression. Probably jealous about Lauren, thought Joe. "Haven't you heard?" said another, even spottier little boy behind him. "Spite's been sacked." "Why?" asked Joe. "Who cares?" said a slightly less spotty boy. "No more boring history lessons." Joe smiled, then frowned. He hated Miss Spite and her tedious lessons like everybody else, but wasn't sure she had done anything to deserve losing her job. Even though she was horrible, she was actually a good teacher. "Spite's been sacked," blurted Joe to Lauren as she walked in. "Yes, I heard," she replied. "It's brilliant news, isn't it?" Well, I suppose so," said Joe. "I thought that's what you wanted. You said you couldn't stand her." "Yes, but..." Joe hesitated for a moment. "I just feel a bit, sorry for her." Lauren pulled a dismissive face. Meanwhile, a gang of fierce-looking girls were sat on desks at the back of the class. The smallest of the group was pushed over in Lauren's direction as the others looked on smirking. "Got any pot noodles then?" she asked, much to the amusement of the gang. Lauren shot a look at Joe. "I don't know what you mean," she protested. "Don't lie," said the girl. "You look different in it, but I well reckon it's you." "I have no idea what you're talking about," said Lauren, a little flustered. Before Joe could speak, a young man in old man's clothes entered the classroom and took his position uncertainly by the blackboard. "Simmer down, please," he said quietly. No one in the classroom took any notice, except Joe. "I said, simmer down, please." The new teacher's second sentence was barely more audible than the first. Still, none of the other kids took any notice. In fact, if anything, they started to make an even more noise than before. "That's better," said the little man, trying to make the best of it. "Now, as you may know, Miss Spite isn't here today." "Yes, she's been given the boot," shouted a loud fat girl. Well, yes, it is true," the teacher continued in his faint monotone. "Now, I'm going to be taking over Miss Spite as your form teacher, and also to teach you history and English. My name is Mr. Bread." He began writing his name neatly on the board, "but you can call me Peter." Suddenly there was a quiet as 30 little brains whirred. "Peter Bread!" proclaimed a ginger-haired boy from the back. A huge wave of laughter crashed over the classroom. Joe had tried to give this poor man a chance, but he couldn't help but laugh. Please, can I have some quiet?" pleaded the unfortunately named man, but there was no use. The whole class was up in uproar. The new form teacher had committed the biggest blunder any teacher can make. Having a silly name. This is a serious point. If you have a name like any of those in the list below, it is very, very important you don't become a teacher. Sudoku, tomato, just in case, kneel down, willing, bobhead, pterodactyl, clairvoyant, malformed, Rachel Prejudice, Monalot, Her Behind, I'm a Hog, Carol Singer, Dictate, Donkey, Rhoda Camo, Robin Banks, feel excited, geriatric, be a problem, Maya bumreeks, Anita bath, Sue age, Marcus absent, algebra, Barbara black sheep, Kitty litter, Merry Christmas, gym class, Doris clothes, Doris locked, Wayne deer, dandruff, Humphrey Dumpty, stand up, cliffhanger, Hugh idiot, leaking, manual labour, roofless, Willy mammoth, marshmallow, watermelon, hazelnut, Luke out, stupid, lollipop, chuck up. Seriously, don't even consider it. The kids in your class will make your life a living hell. Now, back to the story. Right, said the unfortunately named teacher, I'm going to take the register. Adams, don't forget taramasalata, shouted the skinny blonde-haired boy. The laughter swept up again. I did ask for quiet, said Mr. Bread pathetically. Or tzatziki, hollered another kid. The laughter was deafening now. Peter Bread put his head in his hands. Joe could almost feel sorry for him. The grey little man's life was going to be an utter misery from this day forward. Oh no, thought Joe, we're all going to fail our exams. And that's the end of chapter 16. Thank you very much. I hope you're enjoying it still. Take care. Bye.